One of the fastest ways to ruin a D&D game is something called railroading. And the worst part, a lot of new dungeon masters don't even realize they're doing it. I know that because during my first few sessions as a dungeon master, I absolutely did it. I panicked, it wasn't what I had planned for, and I just set off limits. And my players, being new, didn't think anything of it. So what exactly is railroading and how do you avoid it? Railroading is when the dungeon master forces players into a specific, predetermined, pre-planned path. Imagine bowling with the gutter guards up. The ball can only go in one direction. As the DM, you built the lane, you put up the gutters, and no matter what the players try to do, they always end up exactly where you planned. That's railroading. Now imagine removing the gutter guards. Suddenly the players can throw the ball however they want. They might miss, they might hit the pins in another lane, or walk down a separate lane and hit the original pin standing 5 foot away from them. Most of the time they're going to come up with something you least expect. But now it's their choice. And that choice, that agency, is one of the most important parts of D&D. Now this is where a lot of new DMs get confused. Just because you prepared a linear story or adventure doesn't mean you're railroading your players. In fact, most players want to follow the adventure you prepared. This is why they are coming to sit at your table to play the adventure. They understand that you spent a ton of time creating something for them and they want to engage with it. You lay the track, they turn off, and you lay a new track, guiding them in every way they turn. And instead of a straight railroad, you end up having a Christmas tree of different branches they made with their own actions. That's not railroading. Railroading happens when you start shutting down every idea your players have just because it's not what you planned. Let's say your adventure involves breaking into a castle. You've drawn the map, you've planned the encounters, you expect the players to storm through the front gate. A domino effect of your set plans are in motion. But instead, your players say, what if we climb up to the balcony? Now that suddenly doesn't work because the general store doesn't have any rope. You as a dungeon master say this because, well, it doesn't trigger your domino effect and you want them to. It'll be so cool seeing your vision come to life. But after you say there is no rope, they say, okay, well, what if we try to sneak in through the sewer? Once they reach the sewer, they find out that the sewer is completely blocked. Every creative solution they come up with just magically doesn't work until the only option left is the one you originally planned. That's railroading. And when players feel like their ideas never matter, it takes away one of the best parts of the game, because D&D is supposed to be about player choice. But here's the side of this that sometimes causes a little bit of confusion. Sometimes players think they're being railroaded when their plan just doesn't work. Imagine your party needs to cross a massive trench using a drawbridge that you set up. Instead, one of your players comes up with a creative idea. They want to misty step onto a narrow pillar, hammer in an anchor, and create a rope line for the rest of the party. That's a creative, great idea. So as a DM, you let them try. But they roll poorly. The plan fails. From the player perspective, it might feel like the only solution was the bridge that you created. But in reality, the DM allowed the attempt. It just didn't succeed. Failing a roll isn't railroading. It's just part of the game. And honestly, learning to tell the difference between those two things can be really tricky. I actually had a moment recently in one of my sessions that made me realize how much I've improved on this. My party split up into two groups of two. Two players were distracting the townfolk, while the other two broke into a magic professor's house. Inside the house, they ran into a rug of smothering. One of my players suddenly came up with an idea. He wanted to stuff the rug of smothering into their bag of holding. If this had happened during my first couple sessions as a dungeon master, I probably would have panicked. I might have come up with some reason why that didn't work, because I wouldn't have known what to do. And it wasn't what I had planned. But this time I stopped and thought about it, and I said, yeah, you can try, of course. So I came up with a quick ruling for him because I wasn't exactly sure how it worked. The idea was creative and risky, and I decided to give a player a chance to succeed with this plan. And at the end of the day, the plan actually failed. He went unconscious, and the other player had to step in and save him and defeated the Rugged Smothering. But the important part of this story was they got to try. Their idea mattered. While he did fail, all he could talk about after was, man, what if I just rolled better? And he kept talking. He talked about this and that for a while. Giving him that option is what makes this game special. That's when I can sit there and smile, because listening to him be all excited about his character's agency and choices is what makes it fun for me as a dungeon master. And that's the difference between railroading and running a game where players' choices actually mean something. At the end of the day, having a linear story prepared for your players isn't the problem. Most groups want a clear adventure to follow, and guiding them when they need help is absolutely okay. But your job as a dungeon master isn't to force them down the path you imagined. Your job is to build the world, it's to build that potential linear plot, and then let the players interact with it. Sometimes they'll surprise you. Sometimes they'll completely derail your plans. And sometimes their crazy idea will work in a way you least expected. But the moment their choices stop mattering, that's when D&D stops feeling like a game. And I'm curious what your experience has been. Have you ever felt railroaded in a D&D game? Or if you're a dungeon master, have you ever caught yourself doing it? Let me know in the comments. If you have made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I made this video not only to learn more for myself, but also to teach others if you are learning right along with me. As always, good luck on your next session. Thanks, guys.